In the span of a single, suffocating heartbeat, Nia learned 3 truths that would dismantle her carefully constructed world. First, the plastic stick trembling in her hand was undeniably positive. Second, the father wasn't just a handsome stranger she had met at a charity gala. He was Jean, the youngest, most lethal shadow ruling the underworld of Seoul. And third, he had just walked into her cramped studio apartment without knocking, the lock clicking shut behind him with a sound like a prison gate, before he spoke the words that turned her blood to ice. "You are carrying my air. That makes you mine." Before we find out if Nia can survive the dangerous storm standing in her hallway, I need you to do something for me. This story is about to get intense, and we are building a family here that protects its own. Smash that subscribe button right now to join the Afro-Korean Soul Tales community. Are you ready? Let's see what happens next. Nia stood paralyzed in the center of her kitchenette, the air suddenly too thin to breathe. She clutched the pregnancy test against her chest, her heart hammering a frantic rhythm against her ribs as she stared at the man who should have been nothing more than a ghost of a memory. A reckless, beautiful mistake. 6 weeks. It had been exactly 42 days since the masquerade gala. 42 days since she had tripped into the arms of a masked stranger and felt a jolt of electricity so potent it felt like a warning. 42 days since she had woken up alone in sheets made of Egyptian cotton, in a suite that smelled of power and silence, with nothing left of him but the lingering scent of sandalwood on her skin. But looking at him now, standing in her tiny entryway, Jean did not look like a mistake. He looked like a predator. He was devastatingly handsome, but in a way that signaled danger. His eyes were dark, devoid of warmth, tracking her every micro-movement with unsettling precision. The collar of his bespoke black shirt was unbuttoned just enough to reveal the ink crawling up his throat, intricate Korean characters entwined with the scales of a dragon, disappearing beneath the fabric. He didn't just occupy the space, he invaded it. He made her sanctuary feel small, fragile, and entirely unsafe. "How did you?" Nia's voice was a fractured whisper, barely audible over the roar of blood in her ears. "How did you even get in here?" Jean tilted his head slightly toward the door, his expression unreadable. "Your landlord understands the value of cooperation. You bribed him." "I told you," he said, his voice a low velvet rumble that vibrated through the floorboards. He took a step closer, and the scent of him hit her, expensive dark bergamot, cedar, and something metallic, like rain on cold steel. "You're mine. I make it my business to know exactly where my property is kept." Nia backed up until her spine hit the edge of the counter. There was nowhere left to run. "I don't belong to you," she breathed, hating the way her body betrayed her defiance. Hating how her skin pricked with heat at his nearness, how heavy, traitorous warmth pooled low in her belly despite the terror seizing her throat. Her mind screamed run, but her body remembered the weight of his hands. Jean moved with liquid grace, stepping into her personal space until he towered over her. He placed his hands on the counter on either side of her hips, effectively caging her in. He lowered his head until his lips were inches from her ear. "You didn't belong to me 6 weeks ago, Nia," he whispered, the rough timbre of his voice sending a violent shiver down her spine. His gaze dropped, heavy and tangible, to her flat stomach. Something fierce, primal, and terrifyingly possessive flashed in his eyes. "But now? Now you carry my blood. You carry my legacy. And I protect what is mine, even if you hate me for it." Nia's hands balled into fists at her sides. She could hear her mother's voice echoing from across the ocean, a warning from her childhood in Lagos. "Never let a man hold the keys to your freedom." "Move," she commanded, though her voice lacked the steel she intended. "You can't just storm in here and—" "Pack your things," he interrupted, straightening up. The seduction vanished, replaced by cold, absolute command. "You are moving into my penthouse tonight. This is not a negotiation. I am not going anywhere with you." Jean didn't argue. He simply reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew a thick manila folder. He dropped it onto the counter next to the pot of jollof rice she had cooked the night before, a stark collision of her domestic reality and his dangerous world. Photographs spilled out, fanning across the laminate surface. Nia looked down, and the breath left her lungs. There were pictures of her walking to her job at the hotel kitchen. Pictures of her buying coffee at the small cafe in Itaewon. Pictures of her laughing with a coworker in the rain. They were taken from a distance, grainy and voyeuristic. But in every single photo, a thick red marker had circled a figure in the background. A man in a gray hoodie near the bus stop. A woman reading a newspaper too intently near the hotel entrance. Different faces, different places, but the same lurking, predatory energy. "You have enemies now," Jean said quietly. The silence that followed was deafening. "My enemies. They know about the pregnancy, Nia. They know about you. And they will use you to bleed me." Nia felt the room spin. Cold sweat broke out across her palms. "Why? Why would they?" "Because in my world, an heir is power," he said, his jaw tightening, a muscle feathering beneath the tattoo on his neck. "And power is something people will slaughter for." He looked at her then, stripping away the arrogance to reveal the brutal truth. "You have two choices. You come with me and you live. Or you stay here, in this paper-thin apartment with a lock a child could pick, and you pray they grant you a quick death before they get what they want." Nia pressed a hand to her stomach instinctively. The protective urge surged through her, fierce and sudden. The apartment, which had felt cozy an hour ago, now felt like a glass box. Exposed. Fragile. Every shadow in the corner looked like a threat waiting to strike. "Why do you even care?" she asked, her voice breaking. Tears pricked her eyes, hot and frustrated. "You don't know me. One night doesn't mean you own my life." The intensity that flooded Jin's eyes was enough to buckle her knees. He stepped closer, radiating a heat that seemed to sear through her clothes. "That life inside you is half of me. You are the vessel of my future. I don't care if you despise me, fear me, or curse my name every morning when you wake up." He reached out, his fingers hovering near her face before dropping to his side, a crack in his rigid control. "You are mine now. Pack." She wanted to scream. She wanted to throw him out. But her hands were shaking so badly she had to grip the counter to stand. Her mind kept flashing to the red circles on those photographs. The wolves were already at the door. "I have a job," Nia said weakly, grasping at straws. "I have a visa. I can't just disappear." Jean pulled out his phone, his thumbs moving in a blur. "Your employer has already been compensated for your immediate resignation. Your visa has been extended indefinitely under my private corporate sponsorship." He didn't look up as he spoke. "And your mother in Lagos? She will see a deposit in her account tomorrow morning. Enough to cover your sister Simi's medical school tuition for the next 4 years. Nia's chest tightened, anger flaring hot and sharp through the fear. "You researched my family?" "I researched everything." He finally looked at her, and his gaze softened, barely, but enough to catch her off guard. "I know you send 40% of your paycheck home every month. I know your mother works double shifts as a nurse. I know Simi dreams of being a surgeon but can't afford the fees." He paused, his voice dropping an octave. "Let me take care of you. All of you." It should have felt like manipulation. It should have felt like he was buying her, assembling a gilded cage bar by bar. But God help her, beneath the anger, it felt like relief. A heavy, crushing weight she hadn't realized she was carrying suddenly lifted. "This is insane," she whispered. Yes, he didn't deny it. "But we're out of time for debate." As if summoned by his words, his phone buzzed. Jean glanced at the screen, and his expression instantly darkened into something lethal. The temperature in the room plummeted. "They are moving faster than I anticipated." He grabbed her wrist, his grip gentle but implacable. "We are leaving. Now." "Wait, I need to." "Now, Nia." The urgency in his command cut through her hesitation like a blade. She grabbed her purse, her passport, and the small wooden carving her father had made for her before he died. It was the only piece of home she couldn't replace. Jin's hand moved to the small of her back, guiding her toward the door, and she hated the involuntary spark of safety that touch ignited. In the hallway, the air was thick with tension. 2 men in dark suits waited by the stairwell. Their faces were impassive, carved from stone, hands clasped loosely in front of them, ready to draw weapons in a split second. Jean spoke to them in rapid-fire Korean, his tone clipped, authoritative, a general commanding his troops. They bowed sharply and flanked Nia and Jean as they moved. "Who are they?" Nia asked as they descended the stairs, the sound of her worn sneakers echoing against the concrete. "My shadows," Jean replied. "And who are you really?" He didn't answer until they reached the underground parking garage. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting long, eerie shadows. A sleek black Mercedes sedan waited, its engine purring like a dormant beast. Jean opened the rear door for her. When she hesitated, one foot on the pavement, he reached out. His fingers brushed her cheek, a touch so ghost-like it made her heart stutter in her chest. "I am the man who will burn this city to ash before I let anyone touch a hair on your head," he said quietly, his thumb tracing the line of her jaw. "Remember that." Nia slid into the car, the leather cool and buttery against her skin. The door thudded shut, sealing her in. As the car began to move, gliding out of the garage and into the Seoul twilight, Nia caught her reflection in the tinted window. She looked terrified. She looked trapped. But worst of all, she looked like she belonged to him. And maybe, just maybe, she had belonged to him since that moment 6 weeks ago. The memory washed over her unbidden, the masquerade gala. She had been catering, balancing a heavy tray of champagne, when she tripped. Strong arms had caught her. She had looked up into a mask of black velvet and eyes that seemed to see right through her soul. "Stay with me tonight," he had whispered. She should have said no. She should have walked away. But she hadn't. And now there was no escape. Not from him, not from the life growing inside her, and definitely not from the war she had just been drafted into. The penthouse was not what Nia expected. She had braced herself for the aesthetic of a criminal overlord, cold marble, sterile white walls, the kind of lifeless luxury that screamed new money, but whispered nothing of the soul. Instead, the elevator doors opened to reveal warmth. Rich, dark wood floors stretched out under the soft glow of amber track lighting. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic command of the glittering Seoul skyline, with Namsan and Tower piercing the night mist like a sentinel. But it was the details that made her breath hitch. Traditional Korean ink wash paintings hung alongside vibrant, modern abstract pieces. The space felt lived in. It felt human. Nia walked further into the room, her eyes scanning the space, until they landed on a bookshelf in the corner. She froze. It was filled with Nigerian literature. Chinua Achebe, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, Wole Soyinka. She turned to Jean, who was shrugging off his suit jacket. The movement caused his shirt to pull tight across his shoulders, revealing more of the dragons coiling down his forearms, the scales rendered in ink so dark it looked like charcoal. You have these?" she asked, gesturing to the books. "I had them acquired this afternoon," Jean said, loosening his tie. "You are staying here. It is simple logic. You will need something familiar while you adjust to your new reality." "Adjust to being your prisoner, you mean?" His jaw tightened, the only sign of his annoyance. "My wife." The word hit her like a physical blow to the solar plexus. Her chest constricted, ribs squeezing tight around her lungs. "Excuse me. We are getting married," he stated. He said it as casually as if he were discussing the dinner menu. "Publicly. Legally. It is the only way to fully protect you and the child." "No." The word came out strangled. "Absolutely not. You cannot just—" Her hands shook as she pressed them against her temples, trying to stop the room from spinning. "I don't know you. I don't know anything about you except that you are apparently a gangster who stalked my family and saved your life tonight." His voice went cold, slicing through her panic. "Those men circling your apartment? They were not there to ask for directions, Nia. They were waiting for nightfall. That doesn't mean I am going to marry you." Her voice rose, hysteria bubbling up. "Marriage? Are you insane? I have a life. I have a plan. I was supposed to go home in 2 months. Plans change," he said darkly. "Not like this. Not like this." She backed away, needing space, needing air. "This is kidnapping. This is survival." He didn't chase her. He didn't need to. His presence filled the room until it felt like the air itself was heavy with his scent. "You think you have a choice, Nia. But you don't. Not anymore." The moment you conceived my child, you became a target on a board you didn't even know existed. So what? You just own me now. Yes. No hesitation. No apology. Just the brutal, unvarnished truth. That is exactly what I am saying. Nia's nails dug into her palms so hard she felt skin break. She wanted to scream, to throw something, to run until her lungs burned. But where would she run? Lagos was thousands of miles away. Her apartment was compromised. She was trapped in a castle in the sky, and the dragon was standing right in front of her. Suddenly, a side door opened, breaking the suffocating tension. A woman entered, bustling in with an air of quiet efficiency. She looked to be in her 50s, with kind eyes crinkling at the corners and graying hair pulled back into a neat bun. She wore a traditional hanbok in deep navy blue. She bowed deeply to Jean, then turned to Nia and offered a warm, radiant smile that seemed entirely out of place in this high-stakes prison. "This is Mrs. Kim," Jean said, his tone softening perceptibly. "She manages the household. She will help you with anything you need. She doesn't speak much English, but—" "Annyeonghaseyo," Nia whispered, bowing automatically out of respect for an elder, despite her internal turmoil. Mrs. Kim's face lit up. She responded in rapid, melodious Korean, gesturing animatedly at Nia's figure. Nia caught the warmth in her tone, a soothing balm against the abrasion of the last hour. "She says you are too thin," Jean translated, a flicker of something almost like amusement crossing his stoic features. "And that pregnant women need strength. She has prepared mayakguk, seaweed soup. It is traditional for expectant mothers." Nia's throat tightened painfully. This stranger was showing her more maternal care in 30 seconds than she had felt in years of living alone in a foreign country. Tell her okay." Mrs. Kim squeezed Nia's hand gently, a transfer of silent strength, then disappeared back toward the kitchen. The moment the door clicked shut, the tension snapped back into place like a rubber band. "You can't keep me here forever," Nia said, her voice trembling. "Watch me." Jean moved to the bar cart, the crystal decanters catching the light. He poured himself a whiskey, amber liquid swirling over ice. He didn't offer her any. Because of the baby, she realized. Always the baby. "You will marry me," he continued, taking a slow sip, his eyes never leaving hers over the rim of the glass. "You will smile for the cameras. You will convince my world that you are mine by choice. And if I refuse? You won't." He set the glass down with a sharp clack. "Because if my enemies think for 1 second that you are here against your will, they will position themselves as your saviors. They will rescue you." His voice dropped to a whisper that sounded like a grave opening. "And then, once they have you, they will kill you and cut my child from your womb before you can even scream." Ice flooded Nia's veins. "You're lying. You're trying to scare me." "I wish I was." He turned to face her fully, and for the first time, Nia saw a crack in the armor. Behind the arrogance, behind the control, there was a flicker of something raw. Fear. "My world does not have mercy, Nia. It has predators and prey. And right now, you are prey carrying the crown jewels." What Nia didn't realize yet was that Jean wasn't exaggerating. He was underplaying it. In 72 hours, someone would try to kill her. Someone inside his own organization. Someone he trusted with his life. "I need air," she whispered, the room suddenly spinning. "I need the balcony. Alone." Something complicated flickered across his face, reluctance warring with understanding. He nodded once. 5 minutes. Do not go near the edge. Nia escaped through the glass doors, the cool night air of Seoul hitting her overheated skin like a blessing. The city sprawled below her, a grid of millions of lights. Millions of people living normal lives. Eating dinner. Watching TV. Arguing about laundry. She pressed her hand to her stomach. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the tiny spark of life inside her. "I am so sorry. Do not apologize for surviving." Nia spun around. Jean stood in the doorway, backlit by the warm amber light of the penthouse. He looked like a fallen angel, darkness clinging to him like a second skin. "I wasn't supposed to want you," he said quietly, stepping onto the balcony. "That night, it was supposed to be nothing. A distraction. He walked to the railing, gripping it until his knuckles turned white. There had been an attempt on my life an hour before. Poison in my drink. I was shaken, angry. I needed to disappear. And then, you crashed into me. Nia remembered it viscerally. The wine cart tipping. Her desperate grab for balance. The solid wall of his chest. You looked at me like I had saved you, he continued, his voice rough with memory. Not like I was a monster. Not like I was a boss. Just grateful. And I thought, maybe for one night, I could just be a man. He turned to her, closing the distance. I didn't ask your name that night because if I knew it, you would become real. And if you were real. He stopped in front of her. He was close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. Close enough to smell the whiskey and cedar. If you were real, he whispered, I would never be able to let you go. Nia's heart slammed against her ribs. This isn't love, Jean. This is obsession. This is about control. Is it? He reached out, his hand cupping her face. His thumb brushed her lower lip, and she felt the shock of it everywhere, in her racing heart, in her trembling knees, in the ache between her thighs that remembered him too well. I am obsessed with you, he admitted, his eyes burning into hers. I think about you every waking moment. I dream about you. I know it is sick. I know it is wrong. But I cannot stop. You are mine, Nia. You have been mine since the moment you looked at me. I should hate you, she breathed. You should. His forehead pressed against hers. Close enough to share breath. Not close enough to kiss. But you don't. Not completely. Nia's hands fisted in his shirt, caught in the agonizing limbo between pushing him away and pulling him closer. You're impossible. I know. His phone buzzed. Once. Twice. He ignored it. His focus was entirely on her, on the way her pulse jumped in the hollow of her throat, the way her breathing hitched. The phone buzzed again. Long insistent. Jean cursed softly in Korean. He pulled back just enough to check the screen. Nia watched the transformation happen in real time. The heat, the vulnerability, the man she had glimpsed for a fleeting second, it all vanished. The mask slammed back down. His expression went from heated to murderous in a nanosecond. What? She asked, stepping back. Get inside. Now. His hand found the small of her back, no longer a caress, but a forceful guide. He practically marched her toward the glass doors. What is happening? Someone is coming, he growled, pulling out a second phone she hadn't seen before and barking orders into it. Someone I didn't invite. They had barely crossed the threshold into the living room when the private elevator chimed. A cheerful, melodious ding that signaled disaster. Jean moved in front of her instantly. His body became a wall, shielding her from the threat. He reached inside his jacket, his hand hovering over a weapon she hadn't noticed he was carrying. The elevator doors slid open smoothly. And the most beautiful woman Nia had ever seen stepped out. She was wearing a designer dress that cost more than Nia's entire life earnings. Her makeup was flawless, her posture regal. But it was her eyes that held Nia's attention. They were sharp, intelligent, and promised absolute ruin. She looked at Jean first, her red lips curving into a smile that was all teeth. Then, her gaze slid past him to Nia. The temperature in the room didn't just drop, it froze. Gina, the woman purred in Korean accented English. Aren't you going to introduce me to your guest? Get out, Hannah. Jin's voice was ice. Pure, lethal ice. Hannah laughed, a sound like breaking glass. She stepped into the penthouse, her heels clicking ominously on the hardwood. Oh, I don't think so. Not until I meet the little foreign thing who thinks she can take what is mine. Hannah moved toward Nia, her hips swaying with a hypnotic, predatory rhythm. Jin's hand shot out, clamping around Hannah's wrist with the speed of a striking cobra. The sound of his grip tightening was audible in the silent room. Touch her, Jean whispered, his voice vibrating with a terrifying calm, and I will break every bone in your manicured hand. Hannah's smile didn't falter, but her eyes hardened into diamonds. Still so protective. It is almost sweet, in a pathetic sort of way. She wrenched her wrist free, rubbing the red marks forming on her pale skin. She turned her attention back to Nia, looking her up and down with the kind of clinical disdain usually reserved for insects. So Hannah drawled, "You are the nobody carrying his bastard." Nia's hands clenched into fists at her sides, her fingernails biting into her palms. "Excuse me, did he tell you about me?" Hannah tilted her head, her expression mocking. "Did he tell you we were engaged? That I was supposed to be the one standing here? That I was supposed to give him heirs?" Her voice dropped, turning venomous. "Or did he just bed you and forget to mention he already had a dynasty waiting for him?" The words hit Nia like physical blows. She looked at Jean, betrayal flashing in her eyes. "We were never engaged," Jean said, his voice deadly flat. "Your father proposed an alliance. I refused. Repeatedly. You refused after you got what you wanted from my family's influence. I never wanted anything from you, Hannah. You are a parasite." Hannah's perfect mask cracked. Rage, hot and ugly, flooded her features. She looked at Nia again, and this time, there was nothing but unadulterated hatred in her eyes. "Enjoy him while you can, little tourist," she spat. Because women who get close to Kang Jin do not tend to live very long. With that, she spun on her heel and marched back to the elevator. The doors slid shut, cutting off her poisonous presence. Silence descended like a shroud. Nia's legs gave out. She sank onto the nearest velvet armchair, her whole body beginning to tremble as the adrenaline crashed. "She's the one," Nia whispered, staring at the floor. "Isn't she? The one who has been trying to kill you." Jin's jaw tightened until the muscle jumped. "Yes. And now she knows about me. About the baby." "Yes." Nia looked up at him, fear and fury warring in her chest. "How long do I have before she tries to kill me too?" His silence was the only answer she needed. Morning arrived not with sunlight, but with a scent that Nia hadn't expected to smell in a high-rise penthouse in Seoul. Thyme, curry powder, Scotch bonnet peppers, jollof rice. Nia had barely slept, managing maybe 2 hours of fitful dozing on the window seat, her mind spinning with Hannah's threats and the crushing weight of her new reality. But that smell, it pulled her from her misery, wrapping around her like a memory of Lagos. She followed the scent to the kitchen. Mrs. Kim was there, transferring steaming reddish-orange rice from takeout containers into a large ceramic pot, adding her own touches, extra spices, adjusting the heat, tasting with a critical frown before nodding. The older woman looked up and beamed, gesturing enthusiastically at the stove. "For you," she said in careful, broken English, then launched into rapid Korean that Nia couldn't follow but understood perfectly. "You need to eat. The baby needs to eat." Nia's throat tightened. You are making jollof?" Mrs. Kim nodded, ladling a generous portion onto a plate. She had even fried plantains on the side, clearly prepared fresh this morning, golden brown and caramelized just the way Nia liked them. "How did you?" Nia's voice cracked. "I told her." Nia turned. Jean stood in the doorway. He was dressed in a crisp black suit, ready for war, but he looked as exhausted as she felt. His eyes were rimmed with red, his jaw tight with tension. "I had it delivered last night from a Nigerian restaurant in Itaewon," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. Mrs. Kim wanted to add her own touch this morning. She said takeout wasn't good enough for an expectant mother. She wanted to make it fresh. Something cracked in Nia's chest. A wall she had built against him crumbled just a fraction. This woman, this stranger, had woken up early to reheat and perfect a foreign dish because a mafia boss had asked her to. Because, despite everything, he was trying. "Thank you," Nia whispered to Mrs. Kim, pressing her hand to her heart. "Ese gone." Mrs. Kim's eyes misted over. She squeezed Nia's hand gently, murmured something soft in Korean, then excused herself, giving them privacy. "You didn't sleep," Jean observed, moving to the coffee machine. "Neither did you." Nia sat at the counter, the plate of food steaming in front of her. Her stomach growled, betraying her pride. "What were you doing all night?" "Securing the building," he said. "Changing access codes. Running background checks on everyone who has stepped foot in this penthouse in the last 6 months." He took a long sip of black coffee, and Nia noticed the slight tremor in his hand. "Making sure Hannah cannot surprise us again." "Can she?" "Not anymore." His voice carried absolute, terrifying certainty. "I have tripled the security." No one gets within 50 feet of you without me knowing. Nia took a bite of the rice. The taste exploded on her tongue, spicy, savory, rich. It tasted like her mother's kitchen on a Sunday afternoon. It tasted like safety. Tears pricked her eyes before she could stop them. Is it good? Jean asked, watching her carefully. It's perfect. She wiped her eyes quickly with the back of her hand. It tastes like home. Something softened in his expression, a vulnerability he rarely showed. That was the point. They sat in comfortable silence while she ate. It was the first meal in weeks that didn't make her nauseous. The first time since seeing the positive test that she felt nourished. I have something for you, Jean said when she had pushed the plate away. He pulled a small, velvet box from his pocket and set it on the counter between them. Nia's heart stuttered. If that is a ring, I swear to God. It is not. He slid the box toward her. Open it. Inside was a smartphone. Sleek, expensive, and already powered on. Your mother's number is programmed in, he said quietly. Your sister's too. You can call them whenever you want. There are no restrictions. Nia stared at the phone, then at him. You are letting me call home? You are not a prisoner, Nia. He said it gently, like he was trying to convince himself as much as her. You are under protection. There is a difference. Is there? But her fingers were already closing around the phone, clutching it like a lifeline. Yes. He stood, moving to the window with his mug. The morning light cut across his profile, highlighting the sharp angle of his cheekbone and the exhaustion etched into his skin. A prisoner would be locked in a room, monitored, controlled. You have freedom here. Within reason. Meaning I can't leave. Would you? He turned to look at her, and the vulnerability in that question stole her breath. If I opened that elevator right now and told you to go, would you? Nia opened her mouth to say yes. Of course, yes. But the words stuck in her throat. Hannah's face flashed through her mind, those cold, diamond-hard eyes, that promise of violence. She remembered the photographs on her counter, the strangers circling her life like vultures. I don't know, she admitted. At least you are honest. He set his cup down. I have meetings today. Business that cannot wait. But Mrs. Kim will be here. And there are guards stationed throughout the building. I don't want guards hovering. They won't hover. But they will be close. No room for negotiation. His face hardened. Until I know exactly who leaked your location to Hannah, I cannot take chances. What neither of them knew yet was that the leak had come from inside. From someone Jean trusted with his life. And that person was watching them right now on the security feed, reporting every word back to the woman who wanted Nia dead. How long? Nia asked. How long do I have to live like this? I don't know. The honesty hurt worse than a lie. But I am working on it. Hannah's father, he is the key. If I can convince him she has become a liability to the syndicate. You mean if you can prove she killed people? Yes. And if you can't prove it? Then we do this the hard way. Which is, you don't want to know. She probably didn't. But she was starting to realize that ignorance wouldn't protect her. Not in his world. I want to learn Korean, she said abruptly. Properly. Not just phrases from K-dramas. Surprise flickered across his face. Why? Because if I am stuck here, I want to understand what people are saying about me. I want. She hesitated, looking down at her hands. I want to understand you when you speak it. Something raw crossed his expression. I will arrange a tutor. She can start tomorrow. And I want to cook. The words came faster now, fueled by a desperate need for agency. I am a chef, Jean. I need to do something with my hands or I will go insane. The kitchen is yours. He gestured around them. Mrs. Kim will be thrilled. She has been trying to teach me for years, but I am a hopeless cause. You can't cook. I can order takeout very efficiently. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Does that count? Despite everything, the danger, the fear, the impossible situation, Nia laughed. It was a real, surprise sound that seemed to startle the silence of the penthouse. There it is, he murmured, his gaze locking onto hers. That laugh. The air shifted, becoming charged with a static electricity that made the hair on Nia's arms stand up. He crossed the kitchen slowly, giving her time to move away. She didn't. She couldn't. Her body remembered him too well. I need to tell you something, he said, stopping just close enough that she could feel the warmth of his chest. About that night. The gala. Her pulse jumped. What about it? I didn't plan it. His hand came up, tucking a wayward strand of braids behind her ear. The gesture was so intimate it made her ache. There had been an attempt on my life an hour before. Poison. I was shaken, angry, and then you crashed into me. Nia remembered the wine cart tipping, her desperate grab for balance, his arms catching her before she hit the floor. You looked at me like I had saved you, he continued, his voice rough. Not like I was dangerous. Just grateful. And I thought, maybe for one night, I could be just a man. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Not a boss. Not a target. Just someone who wanted to know your name. You never asked my name that night, she whispered. I know. Because if I knew it, you would become real. And if you were real, his forehead pressed against hers. I would never be able to let you go. Nia's hands found his chest, intending to push him away, but her fingers curled into the fabric of his shirt instead, holding on. This is insane, she breathed. I know. We are strangers. We made a life together. His hand slid down to her stomach. Protective. Possessive. Impossibly gentle. That makes us more than strangers. She should argue. She should pull away. But his hand on her stomach felt like a promise she wanted to believe in. One condition, she said, her voice trembling. Anything. If we are doing this marriage, I need honesty. No more secrets. No decisions made about me without me. He kissed her then, soft and achingly tender. Like he was trying to memorize the shape of her mouth. Like she was precious. Nia's resistance crumbled. Her hand slid into the hair at the nape of his neck, and he groaned against her mouth, a sound of relief and hunger. Then his phone buzzed in his pocket. Once. Twice. 3 times. He pulled back, breathing hard, and checked the screen. His expression went from heated to lethal in seconds. What? Nia asked, fear creeping up her spine like a spider. He made a call, spoke rapid Korean, his voice clipped and furious. When he hung up, his jaw was tight enough to shatter glass. Your apartment, he said carefully. There was a fire early this morning. Before dawn. The world tilted on its axis. What? Someone said it deliberately. His hands gripped the counter on either side of her, boxing her in, grounding her. My men were watching the building. That is how we know. They called it in, but... He stopped. Everything is gone, Nia. They made sure of it. Why? Her voice came out strangled. Why would they? Because they want you to know there is nowhere to run. No life to go back to. His eyes blazed with a terrifying fury. They are telling you that you belong here now. With me. Nia's hands shook. Everything she owned. Her clothes. Her photos. The letters from her father. The wooden elephant. Gone. Turned to ash by someone who wanted to trap her. Who did this? She whispered. I don't know yet. The promise in his voice was dark, absolute. But I will find out. And when I do. His hand cupped her face, his thumb wiping away a tear she hadn't felt fall. No one threatens what is mine and lives to talk about it. And despite the fear coursing through her veins, despite the absolute insanity of everything, Nia realized something terrifying. She believed him. And worse, part of her wanted him to follow through. Before we watch Nia rise from the ashes of her old life, I need to remind you, this isn't just a story. This is a family we are building here. Hit that subscribe button right now. Don't just watch from the sidelines. Join the Afro-Korean Soul Tales community. We protect our own here, just like Jean protects Nia. Are you with us? Good. Let's see what happens next. 3 weeks had changed everything. Nia stood in the penthouse kitchen, hands deep in dough for chin-chin, while Mrs. Kim watched with fascination. The older woman had been teaching her Korean cooking, kimchi jjigae, japchae, tteokbokki, and Nia had been returning the favor with Nigerian staples. Like this, Nia demonstrated, cutting the dough into small, precise squares. Then we fry them until they are golden. Mrs. Kim nodded enthusiastically, already heating the oil in the wok. 3 weeks since the apartment fire. 3 weeks of Korean lessons with a tutor named Jimin. 3 weeks of slowly, terrifyingly starting to feel like this penthouse was home. And 3 weeks of Jean looking at her like she was the only thing in the world worth protecting. He had been different lately. Softer. He had started joining her for breakfast, teaching her Korean slang while she taught him Yoruba proverbs. He had her favorite books shipped express from Lagos. He had even laughed last week when she had accidentally cursed at him in Yoruba after he stole the last piece of Puff Puff. And the touches. God, the touches. Casual brushes in the hallway. His hand at the small of her back. Fingers lingering when he passed her coffee. Nothing overt. Nothing demanding. Just constant. Present. A steady reminder that he was there. You happy? Mrs. Kim asked, pointing a flour-dusted finger at Nia's face. Nia realized she was smiling. Maybe. Mrs. Kim grinned and went back to frying. The wedding was in 2 weeks. They had pushed it back. Jin's doing. You should want to marry me, he had said one night, darkness hiding his expression. Not just agree because you're scared. Her phone buzzed on the counter. A text from Jean. Dinner tonight. Just us. I am cooking. She laughed aloud. You can't cook. I have been practicing. Meet me on the roof at 7. Her heart did something stupid and fluttery in her chest. What Nia didn't know was that tonight would be the last peaceful moment she would have. Because the person she had come to trust, the smiling guard, Han, who held the elevator for her, was about to betray her. And before the night ended, she would watch Jean kill for her. The rooftop took her breath away. Fairy lights were strung across the terrace, casting everything in a warm, golden dreamlight. A table was set for 2, and Jean stood by a portable grill, looking devastating in dark jeans and a black t-shirt that hugged his biceps and showed every line of ink on his arms. You came, he said, relief washing over his features. You are actually cooking. She moved closer, the smell of grilling meat making her mouth water. Should I be worried? Probably. He flipped a piece of marinated beef. Bulgogi. But I had help. Mrs. Kim marinated everything. I am just responsible for not burning it. They sat, the city of Seoul sprawling beneath them like a sea of stars. The food was actually good. Better than good. You have been holding out on me, she teased, chewing a perfect piece of beef wrapped in lettuce. This is delicious. Pride, boyish and unguarded, flickered across his face. I wanted to give you something normal. No guards. No threats. Just this. Nia's chest tightened. This is nice. Is it enough? He set down his chopsticks. To make you want to stay? Not because you have to, but because you want to. I don't know yet, she said honestly. But I am getting there. Hope, raw and bright, crossed his features. That is all I can ask. My sister called today, Nia said softly. Simi. She got accepted to medical school. The one I am sponsoring. Yes. She looked at him, searching his face. Thank you. Really. Your family is important to you. That makes them important to me. His fingers found hers across the table. I take care of what is mine. Why do you care so much? Because you're mine, Nia. His thumb traced circles on her palm. I don't know how to do this, be normal, be soft. But I am trying. For you. I know, she whispered. I see it. And is it working? Yes, she admitted. It is working. The smile that spread across his face was pure joy. He stood, pulling her up with him. Then his hands were on her waist, and her arms were around his neck, and they were swaying to music that didn't exist. There is no music, she murmured against his chest. Don't need it. His breath was warm against her temple. Just need you. They danced in the fairy lights, the world reduced to just this. His heart beat against hers, the baby between them that had brought them together. Nia, he murmured into her hair. If something happens, if things go wrong, I need you to promise me you will run. Nia's stomach dropped. The spell broke. What things? What is wrong? Nothing. Just. He pulled back to look at her, his eyes intense. Promise me you will run if I tell you to. Jean. His phone buzzed. Once. Twice. Insistent. He cursed, pulling away to check the screen. His expression went from tender lover to mafia boss in a heartbeat. What? Nia asked, dread pooling in her stomach. Security alert. He was already moving, grabbing her hand, pulling her toward the stairwell door. We need to get you downstairs. Now. They had barely made it to the elevator lobby when the lights went out. Pitch black. Then, the emergency lighting kicked in, a dim, blood-red wash that turned the hallway into a nightmare. I've got you. Jean pulled a gun from the waistband of his jeans. She hadn't even known it was there, and positioned himself in front of her. Someone cut the power. The elevator doors slid open. Jin's men were there, guns drawn. But something was wrong. Their faces were pale. Report. Jean barked in Korean. One of the men spoke rapidly, his voice shaking. Whatever he said made Jin's face strain of color. What? Nia demanded, gripping his shirt. What is it? Han, he said quietly. The name hit her like a physical blow. Han. The young guard who smiled at her. The one who practiced English with her. He is gone, Jean said. He took the security codes with him. He is working for Hannah. He has been working for her for months. His phone buzzed again. He looked at it and cursed viciously. He just let her strike team into the building. An explosion rocked the floor below them. The force threw Nia against Jin's chest. His arms wrapped around her, shielding her as the building shook. When the dust settled, alarms were screaming. Basement, Jean ordered his remaining men. Get her to the tunnel. No. Nia grabbed his arm. I am not leaving you. You promised. I didn't promise anything that would get you killed. Gunfire erupted from the stairwell. Jean kissed her hard, desperate, tasting like goodbye. Run, he whispered against her lips. Then he pushed her toward his men. Nia ran. She ran down the service stairs, her sandals slapping against the concrete, her breath coming in panicked gasps. 2 guards flanked her, moving fast. They hit the basement level. The heavy steel door burst open. Clear, one guard shouted. Nia stepped into the corridor and stopped. Han stood 20 feet away. He wasn't smiling now. He was holding a suppressed pistol, and it was pointed directly at her stomach. At the baby. Nia's hands moved instinctively, covering her belly. I'm sorry, Nia, Han said. He looked bruised, bleeding from a cut on his forehead. But Hannah pays better than loyalty. The guards behind Nia raised their weapons, but Han shook his head. You shoot, I shoot, he said calmly. We all know whose bullet is faster. And mine is aimed at the air. Don't, Nia whispered. Her whole body was shaking. Han, please. There is a baby. I know. His finger tightened on the trigger. That is exactly why Hannah wants you dead. No air, no leverage. No reason for Jean to refuse her anymore. Time slowed down. Nia saw his knuckle whiten. She saw the black hole of the barrel. She saw her death. Bang. The sound was deafening in the concrete corridor. But the pain didn't come. Han's eyes went wide. A red flower bloomed in the center of his chest. A perfect circle. He crumpled to the ground, his gun clattering away. Jean stepped out from the shadows behind him. He was breathing hard, his gun still raised, smoke curling from the barrel. His face was spattered with blood, not his own. He looked at the body of the man he had trusted. Then he looked at Nia. The mask was gone. There was only raw, terrified relief. Are you hurt? He was on her in a second, his hands checking her arms, her face, her stomach. Did he touch you? You killed him. Nia's voice sounded distant, like it was coming from underwater. Yes. No apology. No regret. And I would do it again. I would kill anyone who threatens you. She should have been horrified. She should have recoiled from the blood on his shirt, the violence radiating off him. Instead, her legs gave out. He caught her, pulling her against his chest, burying his face in her neck. His heart was thundering against her ribs, a frantic, terrified rhythm. I've got you, he whispered into her hair. I've got you. You're safe. He was going to kill the baby, she sobbed, clutching him. I know. His arms tightened, crushing her to him. But he is dead now. No one can hurt you. I will burn this entire city down before I let them touch you again. Nia looked up at him. At the man who had just executed a traitor without blinking. At the man who was shaking because he had almost lost her. This is your world, she whispered. This is what you meant. Yes. His thumb wiped a tear from her cheek, leaving a smear of blood on her skin. This is my world. And I will drown it in blood to keep you in it. And God help her, she didn't run. She held on tighter. Nia couldn't stop shaking. They had made it to the tunnel, a cold, damp passage that stretched beneath the building like a vein. Jean hadn't let go of her hand since the basement. His grip was tight, bordering on painful, as if he was afraid she would evaporate into the mist if he loosened it even a fraction. Safe house is 10 minutes out, one of his men reported into a radio. The SUV was waiting at the tunnel exit, engine idling. Jean ushered her inside, slid in beside her, and immediately pulled her into his arms. Breathe, he murmured, his hand stroking her hair. Just breathe, Nia. She realized she had been holding her breath since the gunshot. She gasped, the air burning her lungs. He was going to kill me, the words tumbled out, disjointed. He was going to kill our baby. And you just. I know. Does it bother you? She pulled back to look at him, searching his eyes. Killing him? Does it bother you at all? No. The answer was instant. Brutal. Honest. He threatened you. He pointed a weapon at our child. He deserved worse than a quick death. Nia felt a wave of nausea. I think I'm going to be sick. He grabbed a bag from the seat pocket just in time. She retched, her body finally purging the terror. Jean held her hair back, murmuring soft words in Korean that she didn't understand but felt in her bones. When she finished, he handed her a bottle of water and wiped her face with a handkerchief. I'm sorry, she whispered, leaning back against the seat, exhausted. Do not apologize. He kissed her temple. You almost died tonight. You are allowed to fall apart. The safe house was a fortress disguised as a modern apartment in Gangnam. Jin's men swept it twice before allowing them inside. Perimeter is locked down, the head guard confirmed. Keep 2 men on every entrance, Jean ordered. No one gets in. No one. When they were finally alone, the silence pressed down on them. You should shower, Jean said quietly. There are clothes in the bedroom. I will wait here. Nia looked down at herself. Her yellow dress was torn, dirty. There was blood on her arm, Han's blood. Okay, she whispered. But her feet wouldn't move. Nia. He was in front of her instantly. You're in shock. Let me help you. He guided her to the bathroom, turned on the water, set out fluffy towels. He started to leave, to give her privacy. Wait. Her hand shot out, catching his wrist. Don't go. His eyes searched hers, dark and bottomless. You want me to stay? She nodded. I don't want to be alone. Okay. He sat on the edge of the tub, fully clothed. I am right here. The hot water helped. It washed away the grime, the blood, the sweat. But when she closed her eyes, she saw the muzzle flash. She saw Jin's face, that terrifying, beautiful mask of vengeance. When she emerged, dressed in one of his oversized t-shirts, he was exactly where she had left him. Better, he asked. I don't know. She sat beside him on the bathroom rug. I keep seeing it. Will it ever go away? No, he said softly. But you learn to live with the ghosts. She looked at their joined hands, his large, scarred, capable of violence, hers small, trembling, holding on for dear life. How many people have you killed? Do you really want to know? Yes. He met her eyes. Enough that I stopped counting years ago. The honesty should have sent her running. Instead, it felt like a confession. Like intimacy. I should hate you, she whispered. Any sane person would run. You should. His thumb traced the veins in her wrist. I am a monster, Nia. I know this. No. She turned to face him fully. A monster would have let him shoot me. You didn't hesitate. You protected us. That doesn't make me good. Maybe not. She cupped his face, feeling the rough stubble on his jaw. But it makes you mine. His breath hitched. Say that again. You're mine. Just like I am yours. He kissed her then, desperate, claiming, full of everything he couldn't say. Nia kissed him back, pouring 3 weeks of fear and one into the contact. Later, lying in bed with his arm heavy across her waist, Nia broke the silence. The wedding, she said into the darkness. Do you still want to? More than ever. His arm tightened. I want you legally mine. I want the world to know you are untouchable. I don't feel untouchable. You are the strongest person I know. He propped himself up on one elbow to look at her. You survived tonight. You are still here. Because of you. No. His voice was fierce. Because of you. I just gave you the chance. What happens now? She asked. With Hannah. Jin's expression went cold. The lover vanished. The kingpin returned. Now I handle it. Permanently. Meaning I am done playing defense. His eyes glittered in the dark. She tried to kill you. That is a declaration of war. Tomorrow I end it. Jin, I won't lose you. You won't. He kissed her forehead. You are worth burning the world down for. I am not going anywhere. Promise? I promise. But promises in their world were fragile things. Before we witness the final showdown, I have a question for you. Would you have the courage to stay? To love a man who lives in the shadows? Tell me in the comments below what you would do in Nia's shoes. And while you're there, subscribe to join the family. We are almost at the end, and trust me, you do not want to miss how this war ends. The next morning, Nia woke to shouting. She grabbed a robe and ran into the living room. Jin was pacing, phone pressed to his ear, his face a mask of fury. What is happening? She asked when he hung up. He turned to her. Hannah. She is calling for a meeting. Noon today. Neutral ground. Why? She wants to negotiate. He laughed, a bitter, sharp sound. She says she will leave us alone if I agree to her terms. What terms? Marriage to her. A merger of our syndicates. He looked at Nia, anguish in his eyes. She wants me to choose. You or peace. The world tilted. What are you going to do? He crossed the room and pulled her into his arms, burying his face in her neck. I am going to that meeting. And I am going to end this. How? By making her think she has won. He pulled back, and the cold calculation in his eyes was terrifying. She thinks she has leverage. She thinks I will sacrifice you to avoid a war. She is about to learn how wrong she is. This is a trap, Nia said. Yes, but it is my trap. I'm coming with you. No. Yes. She grabbed his lapels. She wants to see me broken. She wants to see me scared. I am going to show her I am neither. I am going to show her I am Mrs. Kong. Jin looked at her, really looked at her, and pride swelled in his chest. You are magnificent, he whispered. Terrifying and magnificent. I learned from the best. She straightened his tie. Let's go end this. The meeting was set at a luxury hotel in Gangnam. The conference room was all glass and chrome. Hannah sat at the head of a long table, dressed in white like a mockery of a bride. Her father sat beside her, an older man with eyes like flint. When Jin and Nia walked in, flanked by guards, Hannah's smile faltered. I said private meeting, she hissed. She stays outside. She is my wife, Jin said calmly, pulling out a chair for Nia. Anything you have to say to me, you say to her. Hannah looked at Nia with pure hatred. So, you brought the whore to watch you leave her? Watch your mouth, Jin warned, his voice low. Let's discuss terms, Hannah's father interrupted, looking bored. Marriage. Merger. The foreign girl is paid off and sent back to Africa. Simple. No, Jin said. Then we have war. Hannah leaned forward. And I promise you, Jin, she will be the first casualty. You are assuming you have leverage, Jin said, opening a folder he had brought. He slid it across the table to Hannah's father. What is this? The old man asked. Evidence, Jin said. Financial records. Security footage. Proof that your daughter has been skimming from your syndicate for 3 years. Proof that she ordered unauthorized hits on allied families. Proof that she is the one who nearly started a war last night by attacking my home. Hannah went pale. Lies. Her father flipped through the pages. His expression grew darker with every sheet. You told me the attack was sanctioned, he said to Hannah, his voice quiet. It was necessary. To secure the alliance. You stole from me, he said, looking up. You dishonored our family. Father, please. Enough. He closed the folder. He looked at Jin. You have done me a service, Kong. I did it for my family, Jin said, taking Nia's hand. Take her, the old man said to his guards. No. Hannah screamed as her own men grabbed her arms. You can't do this. I am your daughter. You are a liability. She was dragged out, screaming curses, kicking, until the heavy doors slammed shut. Silence filled the room. The alliance is dead, the old man said, standing up. But there will be no war. You defended what was yours. I respect that. He bowed slightly to Jean. Then, surprisingly, he bowed to Nia. Congratulations on the child. And then he was gone. Nia sat frozen. Is it over? Jean turned to her. The tension drained out of him, leaving him looking younger, lighter. It's over. He pulled her into his arms, burying his face in her neck. She can't touch you. No one can touch you. We are free. Nia felt tears spill onto her cheeks. We're safe. We're safe. Say it, she whispered. Please, Jean. I need to hear it. He cupped her face, his thumbs wiping away the tears. I love you. I have loved you since the moment you crashed into me. I will love you until the day I die. You and our baby. You are my world. I love you too, she sobbed. So much it terrifies me. Good. His smile was devastating. Because I am never letting you go. Epilogue, 6 months later. Nia stood in the nursery, rocking gently. In her arms lay their son, Tai. Taiwo, taste the world in Yoruba. He was perfect. He had his father's eyes and her nose. A beautiful, living bridge between their worlds. Jean appeared in the doorway. He had traded his black suits for a soft gray sweater. He crossed the room silently and wrapped his arms around both of them, his wife, his son, his life. How is he? Jean whispered. Finally asleep. Jean kissed the top of Nia's head, then the baby's forehead. I never thought I could have this. Peace. A family. Neither did I. Nia leaned back against his chest, listening to the steady, strong beat of his heart. But here we are. Here we are. Outside, the lights of Seoul glittered like diamonds. The city that had once felt like a prison now felt like a kingdom. And they were its rulers. They had walked through fire. They had survived the darkness. And on the other side, they had found the only thing that mattered. Home. That is the power of love, resilience, and family. Nia and Jin's journey proves that sometimes, the most dangerous paths lead to the most beautiful destinations. If their story moved you, if you felt every heartbeat and every tear, please like this video to show your support. Comment below with your favorite moment. Was it the rooftop dance or the final showdown? And most importantly, subscribe to Afro-Korean Soul Tales. Smash that button right now to join our family, because Nia and Jin's story might be over, but I have so many more breathtaking, heart-pounding romances waiting just for you. Don't miss out. I'll see you in the next video.